Hi, my name's Carolyn Eddy and I have a small catering business in town called Carolyn's Absolutely Fabulous Events. I am thrilled that the library has asked me to share one of my cooking videos with you, and I'd like to welcome you into my kitchen where I've been for the last 5 or 6 weeks. I have been trying to think what a fun first recipe to share would be, and I've come up with a very traditional British dessert. So give me a few minutes and I will set up and then we'll get started. The dessert I'd like to share with you today is one called summer pudding. I know we're not quite there yet, but I thought it was very appropriate because it was the sort of dish that was created to use up leftovers, things which would otherwise be thrown out. So they really had only 3 ingredients: sugar, but it used bread or stale bread and fruit, summer fruits, so any soft berries. And the idea behind it really was to use up the fruit that you couldn't finish off yourself, you couldn't eat in one sitting, or that was possibly in danger of going slightly bad. In the days when people would grow fruit in their back gardens and everything would be ready at once, I remember when I was staying at my grandparents that we would get people knocking on the door and they would be arriving with huge bowls of raspberries and strawberries that they couldn't physically eat themselves and they were just trying to find a home for. So it's got that sort of nature about it. It was a frugal way of using up the food that you had and not letting it spoil. Now we're in a slightly different position here. Because I presume, like me, you've only been shopping maybe once every 8 days, and I find that things like soft fruits, strawberries and raspberries barely last a day or two past buying them and getting them into your fridge. So what I've started making this dessert with is frozen fruit, which obviously lasts in your fridge for quite some time, or your freezer for quite some time. And the other thing that I have used in the past for summer pudding is I switch out the plain bread and I use challah or brioche. And this is the main reason that I'm making this dessert, because I was super excited. When I went to Trader Joe's, they are now selling sliced French brioche in their bread section, which means that the next time you're out shopping, you can pick up some frozen fruit, some of this brioche, and this will freeze as well. It's something that you can have like tucked away for an emergency dessert, because let's face it, we all need emergency desserts. So what I'm going to do with this is, again, normally I would make this in either a larger bowl is the traditional way of doing it, or like a pudding bowl, or I've been making it in a loaf tin. But I'm thinking for today, since there are only 4 of us, and those slices of bread are just kind of perfect size, I would make them in ramekins. So what we need to do is we need to line these ramekins with some saran wrap, cling film, and then we'll get started with the rest of it. So let me just do that and I'll get back to you. So what we start with is we take the slice of brioche out, and I'm going to take 2 slices per ramekin. We're going to have a top and a bottom. And these are really cute, they even come a little lined. So we'll take the cutter, and I've just checked that the cutter is the perfect size for the ramekins. So we're going to take the cutter and we're going to cut out rounds. And if I were you, since we're being frugal, we could keep the ends and make some sweet breadcrumbs with that. And that can be used for another dessert another day. Let's just take this. We're going to take 8 of these. But let me just show you the way to do it with one. And what we're going to have is a top and a bottom. And in between, we're going to have the fresh fruit, the frozen fruit. And after that, we're going to wrap these up, and these will stay overnight in the fridge. So what we do with the fruit is we're just going to make a little compote with it. That means cooking it over a very gentle heat. By all means, use fresh fruit for this. And quite often I do have fruit that I look in the fridge and I think, oh gosh, that's not going to last another day, and sometimes you don't really want to eat it. So this is perfect. I quite often make a compote, so we're going to put a little bit of sugar in there. Let's start off with that, and then just put it over a medium heat for a few minutes, and we'll just let that cook slightly. Oh, I'll switch you off while that's happening. So I've started making some of the individual summer puddings, and what I discovered once I'd started putting them all together was the slices of bread were actually quite thick. They're about that big. So what I have done is I have cut each one in half, and I've revised my original plan, which was to have one slice on the bottom, one slice on the top, because it really didn't leave much room for the fruit. And I'm going to put 3 layers of the bread in. So that's 12 rounds altogether. And as I said, we are not going to waste the rest of the bread. This will go to make a bread pudding, a recipe for another day. So I'm going to probably stick that in the freezer because there's only so much dessert we can eat. And I'm going to show you how to put one of these together. So we're going to start, we've got these all lined with saran wrap, and I'm going to take, and if I can show you that I have cooked this fruit. I added a little, I found some raspberries in my fridge actually, which were kind of on the edge. So I added those in too. And I've just added the sugar. I didn't use all the sugar, but just to take the tartness out of the fruit and to kind of really boost the flavour. And what you get left with is, can I bring it in here? What you get left with is kind of the cooked fruit, but also quite a lot of liquid. And liquid's what you need for this recipe, because you need the liquid to soak into the bread. And you could easily make this with regular sliced white bread. And I was just going to show you, I'm just prepping stuff for another recipe, but this would have been a typical pudding bowl that this summer pudding would have been made in. And you would line the outside with stale bread and patchwork style, so there are no gaps. Fill it with fruit, and then you put a lid on top. For me, it kind of falls apart slightly when you serve it, so I think these are going to be a little bit more presentable, and that's obviously what we're looking for. But if I can just show you what I'm doing. So I'm going to take a little bit of the liquid to begin with, because we want to soak the bread completely with the liquid. Then we're going to put a piece in, and if it makes it easier, you can divide this into 4 amounts of fruit so that you don't run out. But I tend to just eyeball these things. So we're going to put like really basically a tablespoonful of fruit in there. We're going to add another layer of the brioche. Let me move that out of the way. Another layer of the brioche, kind of settle that down, and then add another layer of the fruit. So it's just really a sandwich that we're making with all this fruit. And then on the top goes the final layer of brioche, and kind of want to cover that with some of the liquid. The aim is by the end, all of this beautiful red colour will be all that you will see. So we're going to just cover that up. And then part of the reason that you use the saran wrap is it's also really useful. We are going to then seal these because we don't want them leaking all over the fridge, and press that down. And what you really have to do is add a bit of weight to it. So for us, I'm just going to start piling them up like this, and that should give enough weight to really press the puddings together and to get all that juice to make these that beautiful red colour. So I'm going to continue doing this. Just do 2 at a time. And I think these are probably quite big for individual portions. This may be one to share. So if you have smaller ramekins, that would work too. So we're going to put that in. Fruit. This is a way of making sure I've got enough fruit left to do both of them. One more layer in. And
and just divide the rest of the fruit out here. And it may be some of them get more fruit than others, but that's okay. So just put that over like that. Put the final tops in. And then the last thing we do with this is we leave them for a few hours, preferably overnight. But if you do this in the morning, they would be ready by the evening. And I will come back in a few hours and I will show you the finished article. Look at that, just perfect. When they're all together. Okay, be back soon. So now we have the dessert. You can see the colour's gone all the way through. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take this plate and invert it. Almost got the middle. And you can see that's one pudding. So here we have the finished dessert. We've taken it out of the ramekin and put it on a rather lovely little plate. And with all British desserts, you have to add a little heavy cream. Whipped cream would be lovely too. Possibly a little creme anglaise. Rather pleased with this. Rethinking the whole, this is too large for one person. It looks kind of perfect for one person, to be perfectly honest. I'll give you a top-down view. So all we need to do now is channel our inner Downton Abbey and we're set to go. If you've enjoyed this video, check out my YouTube channel, Carolyn's Absolutely Fabulous Events. I'm also on Instagram as Carolyn's Fab Foods. Hope to see you all very soon. Meantime, stay home, stay safe.